I was really curious to ask you about this phrase predictive technology, because
Hmm.
it's something I hear often now, and I feel like it's something that people might have a general understanding of, but maybe don't always know what it would mean in practice. So can you, like, let's say I was totally kind of new to this idea. How is Nimble using this thing, predictive technology, to actually kind of help districts?
Sure. So essentially what we're doing is trying to help districts with pattern recognition over time. So if in the past certain elements of an application have been indicative of high performance or long-term retention, we're going to try to flag applicants who are similar to help districts more quickly identify the folks who have the highest potential. So to get a little more in the weeds, I think our approach is fairly straightforward. What we do is we look at the application data points. So some of your listeners may not be familiar with the applicant tracking system itself, but this is basically the tool that districts use to post their jobs and that teachers use to apply for those jobs. So we're organically collecting all of this information in the application process, things like work history data, reference checks, educational history, et cetera. And then over time, we match those data points with classroom performance outcomes to see if there's a predictive relationship. And then, we use that relationship to make predictions and recommendations going forward. So in terms of getting a little more specific about the actual things that we're optimizing for, we have two outcomes that we look for. One would be classroom performance or classroom effectiveness, and the other one would be teacher retention. And so when it comes to classroom performance, to dig a little deeper there, we're looking at student growth. So we're not looking at the raw proficiency of a teacher's classroom. We're looking at something called a value-added measure, which is basically, it's what most researchers use to quantify teacher performance. And it controls for certain variables that are outside of the teacher's control and tries to isolate that individual teacher's impact on student learning over the course of an academic year. So to kind of take a step back and sum it up, we're looking at patterns and application data that predict someone's ability to produce strong student growth in the classroom and their likelihood of being retained in that district over time. And this is actually a topic, I don't know if I'm getting too into the weeds, but this is a topic that there's been a lot of research into over the last several years. There's been a good bit of published work, and we're constantly trying to incorporate all of these new methods into the Nimble model in real time. So just to give you a quick example, there's a group of researchers at the University of Minnesota that recently found important predictive patterns in work history data, as well as reasons for leaving prior jobs. And they also found that by using a machine learning approach to quantify those work experiences, they could help reduce bias in the hiring process and make it more equitable, which, as you probably know, is pretty important right now because we have such a lack of diversity in the teacher workforce. So that's a big area of focus for a lot of districts. So those researchers are currently advising Nimble on how we can incorporate this approach into our predictive model. And overall, our goal is to keep ensuring that the model is research-based and that we're constantly improving it over time.